Mayon Volcano just entered its 137th day of continuous magmatic eruption, and Philippine authorities have not lowered Alert Level 3 since the lava collapse of May 2nd. The numbers from PHIVOLCS have not budged. Lava is still flowing down 3 gullies, 3.8 kilometers in Basud, 3.2 kilometers in Bonga, and 1.6 kilometers in Mi-isi. Sulfur dioxide is leaving the summit at roughly 2,000 tons per day. Tokyo VAAC issued ash advisories on May 16th at flight level 80, and again on May 19th at flight level 90. Hundreds of rockfalls have been recorded in single 24-hour observation windows. The 6-kilometer permanent danger zone is still strictly prohibited. This is not a volcano returning to normal. This is a volcano holding the position it took 20 days ago. But here is the detail that tells the real story. The Alert Level 3 status was not raised because Mayon produced a new explosive event this week. It was raised on May 2nd, when a lava deposit high on the southwest flank collapsed and fed a pyroclastic density current that ran 4 kilometers down the Mi-isi Gully in 95 minutes of continuous flow. That is the event Alert Level 3 still refers to. The system that produced it has not been turned off. On the morning after the collapse, drivers on the national highway in Albay pulled to the shoulder and cut their engines because their headlights could not pierce the falling ash. By Monday morning, 124 villages had been counted across Camalig, Guinobatan, Ligao City, and Oas. More than 200,000 people across Bicol were inside the ashfall zone. More than 5,400 were moved into evacuation centers. 20 days later, the cleanup is still going. The masks are still being distributed. The roofs are still being cleared. And the provincial governor of Albay has not changed his warning to the communities below. On day 1 of Alert Level 3, the pyroclastic density current traveled 4 kilometers down the southwest flank in 95 minutes. On day 5, between 7:19 and 7:26 in the morning, a second collapse-fed flow ran down the Mi-isi Gully. On day 20, the lava that built the lobe is still flowing into the same gully. The volcano did not stop. It just slowed back into the rhythm it had before. This is what the last 7 days have looked like on Mayon. By May 15th, PHIVOLCS was reporting that lava effusion at the summit had not paused. The lava flows in the 3 gullies had stopped lengthening, but they had not retreated either. They were holding. No new lava fountaining was observed. The crater glow at night was described in the bulletin as fair, visible to the naked eye, not bright enough to call intense. 3 days later, on May 18th, the monitoring numbers shifted. 297 rockfalls in a single 24-hour observation window, up from 283 the day before. 10 volcanic earthquakes. 6 volcanic tremors. The number of pyroclastic density current signals, the seismic signature of Yusan moving down a flank, had dropped from 17 to 2. A weak plume of 300 meters drifted to the northwest and west-southwest. The same bulletin reported short-term deflation of the volcanic edifice, with shorter-term inflation on the northeastern flank. The ground was breathing in places. The pattern through the rest of the week stayed in the same band. Rockfalls in the high hundreds, volcanic earthquakes in the single digits, tremors that ran a few minutes at a time, lava effusion that did not pause. The numbers fluctuated without breaking out of the rhythm. By May 22nd, the alert level had not moved. PHIVOLCS Director Teresito Bacolcol summarized the agency's posture this week in 4 words: remain calm but alert. Here is why this matters even without a dramatic explosion. The lava feeding Mayon is not the fast, runny basalt that builds Hawaiian shields. It is hyperstein andesite, thick, viscous, full of dissolved gas. It cannot flow downhill quickly. It piles up at the head of each gully, cools at the edges while the center keeps moving, and the lobe gets steeper. Eventually, the slope can no longer carry its own weight. When the lobe gives way, it does not slide as cold rock. It collapses while it is still hot and full of gas. The gas releases on contact with the air, blowing the rock into ash and pumice. The mixture mobilizes as a pyroclastic density current, a ground-hugging cloud of hot debris that travels at speeds nobody can outrun. The interior of these flows can exceed 700 degrees Celsius, roughly 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to incinerate vegetation on contact, hot enough to bury a road within minutes, hot enough that PHIVOLCS has reminded the public in every bulletin that entry into the danger zone, especially in the southern sector, must be strictly prohibited. And the PDC is not the last danger. Once the hot rock and ash settle into the gullies, they wait. When the monsoon rains arrive, and they have started arriving over Albay, those deposits remobilize as lahars, slurries of volcanic debris and water. PHIVOLCS has specifically named the Mi-isi Binaan Channel as the highest risk corridor for hot lahars from new PDC deposits. Hot lahars do not just bury roads. They can cause washout of bridges, life-threatening injuries to anyone caught in the channel, and burial of structures downstream from the deposit source. That is why Alert Level 3 has not been lifted. Not because of one big explosion that nobody saw, because the chain, lava effusion, lobe collapse, pyroclastic flow, ashfall, rockfall, and lahar after the rains is still completing itself. Here is what is not making most headlines anymore. In Camalig, the ash that fell on May 2nd buried vegetable farms across the lowland villages. Livestock were killed where they stood. The Department of Health deployed teams to evacuation centers across Albay to distribute medicines, check respiratory cases, and remind families to keep N95 masks on at all times. Schools across the affected municipalities were closed to classes. Some of those same schools were converted into evacuation centers, prepared by local government units with food, sleeping space, and toilet repairs to handle hundreds of displaced families. 3 weeks in, the rhythm inside those centers has not changed. Mothers wear face masks while caring for their toddlers at the cots. Hygiene kits, surgical masks, and N95 supplies have to be replenished as the air outside the building still carries ash. The schools that were turned into shelters remain closed to classes. Mayon has erupted more than 50 times in recorded history. The May 2nd event is not the largest of those eruptions, but it is one of the most disruptive of the current eruptive cycle that began in January. And the situation has not closed. The ash deposits from May 2nd are still in the gullies waiting for the rains. The roofs in Camalig are still being cleaned. The schools in Guinobatan are still distributing masks. The evacuation centers in Albay are still operational. Here is what PHIVOLCS is watching as the rains arrive. The permanent danger zone is 6 kilometers from the summit, but in the southern sector, the direction of the May 2nd pyroclastic flow, that danger zone is being treated as 7 to 8 kilometers. Communities inside the extended ring have been told not to return. The signals that would push the alert higher are listed openly. A sudden surge in rockfall events, a significant rise in sulfur dioxide emissions, renewed strong strombolian activity, a return of sustained lava fountaining at the summit, larger USON signals on the seismic record. The monitoring is not automated. PHIVOLCS teams at the Mayon Volcano Observatory in Lignon Hill, Legazpi City are reading seismograms in shifts around the clock. Gas spectrometers and GPS stations on the slopes are reporting continuously. Pilots have been told to keep their distance. Ash plumes during sudden events can rise to flight level 90 or higher without warning. Mayon is not over, but it is being watched. The question now is not whether a larger eruption is coming. PHIVOLCS has not said that. The question is whether the system stays in the rhythm it has held for the past 20 days, or breaks out of it. A return to Alert Level 2 would require sustained low rockfall counts. A return to Alert Level 1 would require the lava effusion to stop. Neither has happened in 20 days. Albay Provincial Governor Noel Rosal has not changed his position since the May 2nd event. His words, "The threat is far from over." String.